Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika,
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, Head of the Diplomatic Corps, parents representing the survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi, welcome. Here at the memorial of the genocide in Kigali, where we are commencing the 28th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi, as it is happening in various villages of our country. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, with your permission, we will invite the Antoine Cardinal Kambanda for a prayer.
Utanga ubuzima ukaba n'umugenga w'amateka, tuje imbere yawe kwibuka no gusabira abavandimwe, ababyeyi n'inshuti bazize Genocide yakorewe Abatutsi n'abana bawe waremye ubakunda, kugira ngo bagire ubuzima busagambye, bagukorere, baguheshe ikuzo nk'uko twese waturemye udukunda ngo tube umuryango ugaragaza urukundo rwawe ukaguhesha ikuzo. Ariko icyaha cya muntu n'amacakubiri n'urwango cyashenye urukundo wateye imitima y'abantu, babavutsa ubuzima ku buryo bubabaje cyane kandi buteye agahinda. Ubusanzwe iyo umuntu asoza ubuzima bwe hano ku isi, abakikijwe n'abe bamusigasira mu rukundo, impuhwe n'ineza, ariko aba bavandimwe bapfuye bakikijwe n'urwango, inabi n'agashinyaguro, bazira uko wabaremye, bashatse kubambura agaciro n'icyubahiro wabahaye ubarema mu ishusho ryawe. Tuje kubagaragariza urukundo, icyubahiro n'agaciro bikwiye umuntu tutashoboye kubaha. Wowe waduhishuriye ko ukwemera nubwo yaba yapfuye azabaho iteka. Turabasabira ngo bakire baruhukire mu mahoro. Turasabira abapfakazi, imfubyi n'inshike basize, kugira ngo uramira bihebye n'abababaye ubabe hafi, ubafashe, kandi natwe uduhe umutima w'urukundo, tukubera amaboko ukoresha kugira ngo tubiteho mu kubahumuriza no kubakomeza. Turagusaba ngo ufashe abahemutse biyunge, bashobore kwiyunga, natwe twese twiyunge n'amateka, kwiyunga n'abavandimwe no kwiyunga nawe, kugira ngo twubake igihugu cy'amahoro. Turagushimira ko watuvanye muri uyu mwijima w'icurubirindi ry'urwango n'inabi, tukaba tugenda tuva ibuzimu tujya ibuntu, kandi ukomeze utumurikire, tugendere mu rumuri rwawe rucyaha umwijima n'amacakubiri n'urwango. Turagushimira ubuyobozi bw'igihugu cyacu waduhaye, kandi ukomeze ubamurikire kugira ngo udufashe kugera ku bumwe n'ubwiyunge, isanamitima n'iremamiryango, kugira ngo dushobore kubaka umuryango ushyize hamwe, ibyabaye bitazongera kuba, amacakubiri n'urwango, Genocide ntibizongere kuba ukundi, kugira ngo abana bacu n'abuzukuru tuzabasigira umurage w'ubuvandimwe, amahoro n'iterambere. Umuryango wawe w'umuryango ukubaha kandi uguhesha ikuzo. Abavandimwe, inshuti n'ababyeyi, Nyagasani ubahe iruhuko ridashira, maze ubiyereke iteka baruhukire mu mahoro. Ku izina ry'Imana Data na Mwana na Roho Mutagatifu.
arakoze.
Thank you, Cardinal Kambanda. Your Excellency, the President and First Lady, the next item is the laying of the wreath in honor and in memory of the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi.
tubahaye ikaze nyakubahwa mwunamire.
You are welcome, Your Excellency. Next is the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps in Rwanda. You are welcome.
Nous vous invitons
We invite you to also pay your respects to the victims.
hakurikiyeho
Next is the representative of Ibuka.
nikaze mwunamire abazize.
It's your turn, sir, to pay your tributes to the victims of the genocide.
hakurikiyeho
Next is the representative of Avega.
nikaze mubyeyi mwunamire abazize.
Welcome, madam. It's your turn to pay your respects to the victims of the genocide.
nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika na
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Your Excellency, First Lady, thank you for paying your respects to the victims of the genocide. We would like at this point to ask the parents of the victims to start moving forward towards the eternal flame.
Rwanda
nyakubahwa
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Your Excellency, the First Lady, you are welcome to relight this flame, this eternal flame, as a symbol of the courage of the Rwandans who are able to rebuild themselves up to this 28th year as we move from the darkness of genocide to a bright future.
Is the light of remembrance, the light of life.
murakoze nyakubahwa.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President and the First Lady. The program will continue in the amphitheater that is going to host the commemoration program here at the Kigali Memorial Site.
muri uyu mwanya nagira ngo mbasabe.
At this moment, I would like to request you to get and stand up as we welcome the President and the First Lady. They are arriving at this moment.
Kindly remain standing for a minute of silence.
murakoze mushobora kwicara.
Thank you. You may sit down.
nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika,
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Your Excellency, the First Lady, distinguished guests, Rwandans, friends of Rwanda, thank you for giving us this opportunity. My name is Union Mutabazi Josue. My colleague is Christine Nkurikinga. We are the masters of ceremony for today. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, 28 years have passed. The Rwandans and Friends of Rwanda have been commemorating genocide against Rwanda that made more than 1 million victims. We remember today the dark times of our history. Today is an opportunity to remember and honor the victims, and this helps us rebuild the unity of rebuilding of Rwandans.
The genocide ideology destroyed the Rwandan society, leading to the genocide against the Tutsi. As we commemorate the genocide, we commit to continue fighting its ideology and to support the great achievements towards our national unity. We remember, we unite, we renew. Without taking more time, Your Excellency, it's my honor now to invite the Honorable Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement to make his presentation.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to make a presentation during this 28th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsis. I will give you historical examples in order to help the youth know that the genocide is not a feature, an innate feature of the Rwandan character. Its ideology has an origin, it was taught, it was given room in politics, and it led to killings. The youth ask themselves the origin of the genocide very often in order for them to understand it and make them able to fight against genocide ideology, and in order to give force to their choice of being one and protect our achievements. Let me talk about governance first. On the 23rd of September 1969, Juvenal Habyarimana, who was then the Minister of Defense, ordered the burgomasters to solve the problem of the return of refugees, and he says their return was illegal. He instructed them to monitor them with diligence so that that illegal return should be stopped once and for all. He added that if you carry out the census of the foreigners in your community, you can reach this goal. Start censoring them, counting them now, and your answer, your response is expected without delay. The gravity of these instructions from Habyarimana, who calls Rwandans foreigners and who asserts that their return to their country is illegal, is one of the sources of the genocide that we are commemorating today. Some refugees and members of their families tried to seize courts of law, applying for restitution of their property. And on the 26th of February 1966, President Kayibanda adopted a decree that prevented that. He wrote this: any person who has fled cannot apply for restitution of their property, if these property have been given to other members of the population or if the government has repossessed it. By going, they abandon their property. Nobody responsible for their fleeing. The government cannot be responsible for their fleeing. The government organs were given instructions to implement this. The prefect played a role in this, and this continued up to the Second Republic. On the 25th of October 1973, President Habyarimana reissued a decree that prevents refugees to enjoy the rights of their own property in their own country. Regarding security, in 1924, the Belgians signed with the UN an agreement that was to create the armed forces of a country. That was to start in 1959. Colonel Logiest, who was the representative of Belgium in Rwanda, decided that that army would be comprised of 86% Hutus and 14% Tutsis. Although this decision had no basis, it was never implemented. On the 29th of September 1960, there was a meeting between Colonel van der Straten, who was responsible for creating that army, and Colonel Rogiers, and they both decided to exclude Tutsis. The minutes of their meeting says the following: the armed forces will be composed of Hutus exclusively. We should not use the principle of neutrality and democracy as an excuse in order to recruit even one Tutsi. Any Tutsi who tries to join, we will immediately declare them unfit for service. Although this clearly represents injustice, we don't want to mix goats with cabbages and recruit people in the armed forces who are going to create problems for us. Your Excellency, creating a so-called army, national army, and exclude Tutsis therefrom is one of the reasons why in 1959 killings were being committed against the Tutsis, and the army did not prevent them, and they took part actually in those killings. On the 21st of September 1992, the Rwandan Armed Forces produced a report written by Colonel Sabimana, who was the Chief of Staff, and this report said that the Tutsis are enemies of Rwanda, and whoever supports them is a traitor. The colonial administration saw the consequences of this policy, but they maintained it. On the 30th of April 1961, Belgian intelligence services wrote this. In Rwanda, the recruitment of the soldiers was based on Hutus only. When they are on duty, they put more weight on being Hutus than on the professionalism that should that is expected to be of any soldier or any policeman. For those reasons, we should not send them to ensure security wherever there is any political problem. What is surprising that the colonial administration saw the consequences of this, but maintained the status quo. We can see this in the report of the 27th of November 1961, where General de Coumont, who was the chief of staff of Belgium, advised the Minister of Defense the following: to entrust the Rwandan armed forces the duty of protecting borders and ensuring security, internal security, is creating a problem, because if they were to commit killings, the UN could qualify those killings as a genocide and would be accused of complicity. Remember, he was writing this in 1961, while in Rwanda, killings had started since 1959. Another thing is that whenever killings were carried out, there was a modus operandi. First, meetings, then the counting of the killed, then there were reports, but there were no consequences for the perpetrators. On the 10th of May 1960, a colonial administrator called Wild, nicknamed Spears of the Stomach, wrote to the chiefs of the Nyanza chieftaincy and asked them to produce a report of the victims of those who were killed by the army and party activists since 1959, and he wanted them to show the name of the killer, the father and the mother, the date and the reason for the killing. There is no reason really why these people could be killed. On the 17th of December 1963, Prefect Nyeramugaba for Gikongoro instructed the burgomasters in what he called Inyenzi, reminding them of what was agreed during a meeting aimed at inciting to commit killings. He said this: based on what we agreed during our last meeting concerning those criminals, we would like to ask the people, ask the people to be vigilant and to send me a report on the refugees. We will do everything to support you, but you also should not hesitate to protect yourself. Any burgomaster who will not sensitize the population to this matter will be considered a traitor. This was before the Inyenzi attacked, because they attacked Bugesera on the 25th December 1963. On the 20th of April 1964, Prefect Nyeramugaba wrote again, asking them to count the people who were killed and to submit a report to him within 4 days.
One fact that is very little unknown: some of the colonialists who helped Parmehutu people to kill. Mr. Nissens, who was Kigali administrator, said that during the killing of 1959, he made Parmehutu people who were killing Tutsis near Kigali and asked them under whose instructions, and they told him they were following orders from Egermont, a colonial official. Surprised, he spoke with chronologist, his supervisor, who admitted he knew it and supported it. Another thing is that whenever the government wanted, it would stop the killings. In 1959, when the killings were into 2 weeks, chronologists announced the end of the killings and gave ad hoc instructions. In 1963, 1973, it was the same. Always the government would start the killing and stop it whenever it wanted, and then counted the dead. End of story. Ultimately, the government issued a decree condoning impunity. On 20th May 1963, President Kayibanda issued a decree protecting the killers who from any prosecution because of what he called self-defense by the majority, euphemism for ethnic majority. However, the decree said those who fought Parmehutu would be punished. Your Excellency, education was one of the tools that was used in the politics of hatred that led to the genocide against Tutsis. On 26th October 1972, it was an annual government day. President Kayibanda said that the Tutsis were to be excluded. He said, a Rwandan saying goes, let all the mixed crops grow together, but I'm telling you, please separate wheat from the chaff. He was telling them to exclude Tutsis from schools and from the workplace. In February 1973, the government created a committee for the people's salvation. It was led by a team, a committee in the government of in the presidency of the republic, headed by the Secretary General in the President's office, a Director General in charge of politics, administration, and politics. Together with the Ministry of Education, they started a policy of excluding Tutsis from schools and jobs. To make sure this was done properly, they drew a list in the Ministry of Labor of Tutsis who were to be expelled, and they told Tutsis to leave their posts willingly. And that's what they did in private companies. On 23rd March 1973, the Minister of Interior asked the burgomasters to write a report about the students who were expelled. It should be written in Kinyarwanda, transmitted through the prefect physically because it was top confidential. When President Habyarimana came to power, he said he had pacified the country, and some Tutsis who had remained in the countries regained some hope. And in September 1973, the Minister of Interior went on a tour in all prefectures, telling the prefects that they should not let the Tutsis return to work. If they tried, they should tell them that they had deserted their duties. In 1973, Habyarimana started a politics of exclusion from the education sector for the Tutsis. He said, we had reviewed our education policy. Our new policy intends to train and educate the majority segment of the population. Enrollment in high schools will be ethnic and region-based. The MRND Congress on national level emphasized this, namely the one held in Kigali from 17th to 21st December 1980 and the one from 26th to 29th June 1983. And it was made the law of land in 1985. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Parimehutu and MRND politics also destroyed Rwanda by involving the youth in killings. In 1968, the Manifesto number 4 of Parimehutu confirmed that the 1959 revolution would be completed by the youth. On 23rd March 1994, at the height of the genocide, MRND issued a communique thanking the Interahamwe militia for being relentless in killing. It said, MRND leadership thanks Interahamwe and their committees at the national level for fighting off the enemy whose agenda is to exterminate Rwandans. RPF's destructive agenda should not discourage the youth in identifying the enemy and to do away with him wherever he may be. That was the case since 1959. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, this history shows the importance of being a Rwanda first, Rwanda policy that we have today. The history shows that genocide against Tutsis was no accident. Since 1959, the government instilled the culture of excluding Tutsis at every level of the country's politics. Tutsis were always persecuted, and this was internalized. It became a way of life, integral part of people, the people's behavior. They treated Tutsis unjustly and became commonplace. The Tutsi came as the culmination of that policy and those politics. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Rwandans are happy with the inclusive governance that you allowed Rwandans to enjoy. We remember as we commemorate that what we went through today, and we reflect on our history and celebrate Rwanda's progress and rejoice in the fact that you have restored Rwandan self-worth, and we are happy thanks to the politics of unity that you have put forth. This is the Rwandans' vision, and we will never abandon it. I thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic.
murakoze cyane.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that brilliant presentation that explains the origin of the prejudices among the Rwandans and the need for the youth to cherish the choice they have made. I'd like now to invite Mr. Sibomana Jean de Pomsen
in the district of Gatsibo.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Your Excellency, First Lady, distinguished guests, fellow survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi, we would like to thank the President for this opportunity to give a brief testimony of our survival and also a few words about our lives today. My name is Shanepo Sibomana. I come from the Eastern Province in the district of Gatsibo, the sector of Morambi, Rwankuba village. That's where Jean-Baptiste Gatete comes from. I was born in a family of 5 children. I'm the firstborn. Our family was a pretty much ordinary family. Our life was ordinary. We had cows, and we used as children to help with that work, and in the evening we would play under the stars and the moon. In 1990, in October, when the liberation struggle started, my father was arrested. He had to present his identity card. They made him to sit down, and he was kicked with feet. Some neighbors came and pleaded for his liberation. On his way, he shook his head and he said, "These Hutus will kill us one day." That was the first time I was hearing that word. We arrived at home, and a few months later, the man I mentioned, Gatete, started to arrest, to beat Tutsis. They were accused of being accomplices. He would arrest neighbors and he would say that he got them at the front, that these were Inkotanyis who had run away. Some were being killed at the military barracks in Byumba. We know 16 of them who were our neighbors. This was 1990. In 1991, after the Interamwe had benefited from training, we had a large piece of land, and they used to come to carry out their training. But they had started in Nyabisindu, where there was a range where they learned how to use firearms. Towards the end of 91, Gatete planned to kill the Tutsis in our region at Rwankuba. They tried to do that. They destroyed our homes. They chased us. We ran away to Giziguro, where we spent 3 weeks. He was being helped by others like Bizimungu, who was a conseiller, heads of the Celils, and police officers and others. Back from Kiziguro, we came with the former sous-prefet of Ngarama, and he asked us to go back to where we came from. The older people left the district. Some of us remained. Between that time and 1994, life was a test. I was unlucky to have a younger brother of Gatete as a teacher. We were 6 Tutsis in our classroom. One day I spoke to one of them and I said, "Why is the teacher asking this all the time? Can't he count? He counted on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday." And we got tired. The child said that to the teacher, and I was caned for that. When I went home, they asked me to go to school, otherwise they'll kill us. When a student or a pupil did not present themselves at the school, they say they went to the front and they would come to the home and kill everybody. We would live in bushes. We came home, we ate, then went back to the bushes. We had some beddings there. Sometimes the termites would eat the beddings, and sometimes some more kids who are already in Interahamwe would steal our property, whatever we left in those bushes. Then came 1994, and on the 7th of April, I was at home. I was getting ready to go present my school report to the priest because I wanted to join the seminary. I saw my father arrive home. He said, "Don't go there, go take care of the cows. Your young siblings should come back home." As I was asking, I heard the Interamwete. Interamwete were another group of women, Interahamwe women that Gatete had trained to support their brothers. Within Murambi, being an Interahamwe was based on family. There were Interahamwe, those were men and young people, and there were Interamwete, these were ladies, and there was young children at our age mates. I was 11 years old, and some of them were a bit older than us, and they were called smaller bees. Gatete, in person, in the company of Mwange, who was the current burgomaster of Murambi, and others, I don't remember their names, came to Rwanguba sector, close to our home, organized a meeting, invited the Interahamwes to join, and around 10 o'clock, all the hills around our home hill and many others, we could see homes being burned from the morning. We were used to defending ourselves. When Gatete sent Interahamwe, he first prepared them. They attacked us around 10. The younger ones tried to defend themselves up to 4 p.m. and the Interahamwe got tired and retreated. Where I was there during that reprieve, I took an old man called Kabuto and some ladies. They were put in one home, and some went into the houses, and myself, I ran away and hid on top of a tree. My mother followed me with my younger siblings and my mother. 2 of them, I helped them to climb the tree. Some of them remained with my mom. Other men, my father and other men, stayed behind trying to defend themselves. Gatete asked for reinforcements, and at around 4 p.m. they started shooting at us. I am sorry. Then, after shooting at us, some of the victims ran to the marshland of Muhazi. Some people know the place. We were in the tree and we could observe the scene. that day they burnt women and children in excess of 50 in number. It was on the 7th. We fled that night and went to Kiziguro. I was left with my mother and a little sister that she was carrying on her back and a younger brother. We could not find the others. When we came down from the tree, we don't know where they went. The Interahamwe were there running behind us and chasing us. We arrived at Kiziguro. For those who know that place, there is a valley between Murambi and Kiziguro. It was raining. Crossing that valley during the rain, it was very difficult. Today we have roads and rice is being planted there, but that time it was difficult to cross because you could drown in the mud. So I crossed with my mother and those children. We had to leave Murambi and cross over to Kiziguro. But arrived at the bridge, we found that the Interahamwe were waiting for us. We waited there, but by the grace of God, those Interahamwe fell asleep, and we passed by them. We arrived at Kiziguro around daybreak on the 8th. We thought we were the very first people to arrive at the church, but we found that the church was already occupied by a large number of people. Before we entered the church, the gendarmes and the military intercepted us, kicked us with their feet. And when the priest opened, I ran through his legs. But after the priest had discussed with the soldiers, they allowed my mother and other people to come in. Inside the church in Kiziguro, we spent 3 days. Some who arrived on the 7th had spent there 4 days. No food, no water. The church became overcrowded. This is a church that was built in 1942. Around it, there is a perimeter fence. The church became full. Some went into the adjoining building. Others went to the banana plantation. On the 9th, the priest left us. One of them was called Santos. He was a white man, and another one was called Jean-Pierre, and that one was an extremist. On that same evening, Gatete came. I knew him personally because he was our neighbor. He used to come to our home. His name, we nicknamed him Ruchahana. When he came aboard his car, we would get out of the house and look at him. People wonder why that church was not built. It's not because the people could not defend themselves, but as we arrived, there were gendarmes. You come with a baton, they take it away. You come with any traditional weapon, they take it from you. They are the ones who are giving the keys to the killers. That evening, there were military officers. I came to know later that one of the senior officers there was Ngundie. After being beaten at the front, he came to kill Tutsi civilians. On the 11th in the morning, they came in, the army, wearing chains of ammunitions with firearms. They searched the church, searched its surroundings, searched the banana plantations, everywhere where somebody could hide. Then the Interahamwe came in and started butchering people with machetes. I was one of the lucky ones. I was able to look into my mother's face, and she gave me 405 francs. He told me, go. If you survive, take care of your younger siblings. As they were butchering us, the armed forces had encircled the fence. The leaders would come with lists. on which you had people who are not yet killed. I could recognize our conseiller Bizimungu Jean and the one for Kiziguro called Kamari. I knew them. They cut people, blood was flowing everywhere. It got mixed with rainwater. Somebody hit me on the head and he said, "You have money." I don't know whether he saw how my mother handed to me. We were sitting in groups. We were separated. In my group, I was sitting with a young man who had sustained a machete wound, even a lady who had a wound. I digged into my pocket and I gave him 400 francs, and I sat there and watched because they took him away. Other people came from other groups. We arrived outside. We found that others also being cut because others had run and found refuge at the Kiziguro hospital. As we were outside, they decided to escort us to a hole that had been dug in 1972. It was meant to be a borehole for water. It's a very deep hole that was left uncovered. When the bodies became too many, they would take young Tutsis. For instance, they cut your father, they cut him into pieces, put him on a wheelbarrow, and they ask you to push the wheelbarrow and go and pour those pieces into the hole. I sustained, somebody shot at me with an arrow, but it did not kill me. People were running right and left. Towards the evening, the dead were too many to count. To help you understand this, we had people called IDPs in Kiziguro. People had run away from the front. There were Interahamwe, and other civilians, and those people who were displaced. They would kill like there is no tomorrow. They would even eat human flesh. So somebody took me and hid me under his bed. May God bless that soul. He hid me there and he said, "Keep quiet. If you talk, my wife will kill you." I slept under the bed, and at night something came. It's like a light. People were scared. They thought it's the Virgin Mary who was coming to punish those who killed at Kiziguro. It was near the road. For those who know, it is near Ndatemwa. It was near the road. The soldiers were passing wounded, and they looked like defeated troops, and they were saying they are going to Tanzania. On the road, I found myself again near a roadblock where I found too many bodies near Kiramuruzi. I found another family of about 8 people who had been laid down. They wanted to kill them. I was also running away because the members of that man, the family of that man who had saved me, wanted to kill me. I was covered in blood, and luckily I saw people who were about to be killed, so I laid myself down. One of the Interahamwes was related to those people, and he tried to plead for them, but their brother Gahigi had said, "Kill nobody," because he was not like the others. They wanted to kill him, so they didn't kill them. A young lady called Kaitesi came and defended me, said, "Don't kill my child." I lived with that family. That old man decided to return to his home in Buhura, and I went with them. We spent there 3 months, and during those 3 months, a lot of things happened that I can't attempt to recount. But towards the end of June, I met the forces of RPF in Gotanyi. God bless them. The soldier that I met had fled with us. He had passed through Giti. He joined the forces, and he knew me. He asked me, "So and so, did you see them?" I saw them. "Where is he?" "He died." Each time I said they died, he cried, and I cried with him, but he was on duty. He said, "I can't go with you now, but I'll send other people to take care of you. I came to learn that at Muhura there was a camp of survivors. They took me there, and I stayed there for some time. Then I was later taken to Rutare, escorted by a military vehicle. There was another camp. We remained there with the other orphans at the communal office in Rutare, for those who know there. Then when I came back to Muhura, I met an aunt who brought me to Kigali. This Kigali that you are seeing here, this city was stinking, full of dead bodies. We were near Stade Amahoro. I fell sick, seriously. In my mind, I had all these people that I was with in Kiziguro. I tried to look for my siblings. They would take me to the stadium. But despite all the medicine I was getting, I failed to live in Kigali. I went back to the rural areas. Then my aunt brought me back. I went to Apad, where I studied year 5 and 6. I succeeded. I was sent to Saint Andre, and at the end I went to the Adventist College of Gitwe in the southern province. I could say that that's a place where I learned to recover and rebuild myself. I met other survivors. There was an organization called IRG. I joined it, and I realized some people had suffered even more than me. I decided to dedicate myself to that work. There were awards at school, so I worked hard in order to be awarded because I wanted to help some of my comrades who couldn't even afford soap or other basic needs. The government of national unity paid for us. We studied, but the government, of course, could not penetrate our hearts and know what we were harboring. We served within IRG, and I found myself as a family father, but I ended up becoming the head of all the families, so I was, so to speak, a grandfather. I completed my secondary school, and towards the end of the completion of my studies, let me say that I liked three things. I liked studying. My mother used to insist on that. I used to play football, and I used to pray. Those three things helped us a lot. I succeeded and joined KIST, and I continued doing the same thing. IRG was also represented. We also had ordinary school, university administration, because this time we had the means to organize ourselves. I will try to go a bit faster. Later on, I got married. I have a wife and 2 children. My wife is here present. But sometimes I ask myself, that message that my mother used to give me, who are those younger brothers? The first set of brothers were members of IRG. But later on, I decided to go back to our former home, where I was a neighbor to Gatete. But meanwhile, we witnessed a lot of things. Let me tell you what the Nkontanyi did in Kiziguro. You remember the hole I talked about? That hole was filled with bodies, and it was overflowing, and some were left at the church lying down on the floor. On the 16th of April, the Nkotanyis arrived. They thought they were coming to save people, but people were already rotting because they had started killing on the 11th. They took a rope, sent it down the rope because they had been told that some people are still breathing. Because when you are afraid of being killed, people would jump into the hole. They were able to retrieve 11 people from that hole. So when we talk about this concept that Nkotanyis represent life, we are talking about such things. 6 of them are still alive. They live in Gatsibo today. I came back, as I said. I got married. My wife and I decided to go back to Gatsibo because I felt a calling. when I grew up, as I was growing up, I liked three things. I liked reading books about Mandela, Martin Luther King, and I used to like your speeches, Your Excellency the President, especially during the period of commemoration. We used to analyze and study your speeches, and this used to inspire us. My comrades within IRG know this. So we went there and started an organization. The main house, or the main building, is next to our home. This institution teaches agriculture and animal husbandry, and we went further. Now we have created a nursery school, and there are other activities that train young people in vocational activities. What was our aim? Our aim was to teach those who had been poisoned by Gatete that you could do good, following your example, Your Excellency. Today, those who are Interahamwe and their children are now working very closely with the victims, and that makes us happy. We cannot attain all our goals, but because we don't have the means, but we do our best. We have just completed a school for kindergarten, but we hope that in the future we'll be able to build a primary school and a secondary school, so that all those who learned the message from Gatete should be taught something different. They should see something positive in their home and not necessarily learn from the negative ideology of their parents. I would like to conclude thanking the government of national unity. We have a lot to learn. Your Excellency, you made sure that we were educated. You did well. Where would we be now had we not gone to school? I see Mama Vega, we were able to build homes for our parents so that they have a roof over their head. You did a lot more than that. I am the chairman of Ibuka in Gatsibo, in Avega Gatsibo. Last year, we were able to retrieve the bodies of those victims that were thrown into that hole. We reached the bottom. We were able to realize that it had 25 meters of depth, 3 meters of width, but at the bottom, it's very wide. We thought that it could be 35 meters deep. We thank you for building a memorial there. It lies on a beautiful hill. When you have time one day, please pass by. My first message goes to the parents who dedicated their lives to us. The government was paying, but during the holidays we had to go somewhere. I would find that one parent has like 10 children. Thank you, our parents, for your dedication. I'd like to thank my comrades. I see some of them here present. Thank you for having obeyed your government, obeyed the parents. They were not your physical parents, but they were your spiritual parents nevertheless. We thank the government of Rwanda very, very, very deeply. First, for the peace that we have. Second, for this solid program of fighting against the genocide ideology. And thirdly, because we are all involved in this all-encompassing effort for rebuilding our country. But most importantly is that you are teaching us to be united. We, as the survivors, what we can do to honor your efforts is to forgive. I personally have done that, and I know others who have done that. I don't want to retain your attention any longer. Thank you, you're present. Thank you for the message you are spreading in the country. And I would like to comfort all the victims, those here present and those who are not here. I'd like to tell them what we want, everything. Let's rebuild ourselves, and the future is bright. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jean-Paul, for sharing your powerful testimony. showing that it is possible to heal from such pain and grow to set an example for national unity. Your Excellency, I will now invite the Nyundo School of Music to perform their song.
murakoze cyane turakomeza.
Thank you. We want to request Nyundo School of Music to play another song to help us commemorate. Thank you.
turashimira abamaze kuririmba.
We thank the band, Your Excellency the President of the Republic, as we all gather here, and Rwandans following from around the country and virtually. We are waiting your remarks. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Dear leaders here present, the leaders of our national institutions, my fellow Rwandans, dear guests, members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of international organizations. On a day like this, in a moment like this, it becomes difficult. And for those who don't understand Kinyarwanda, have simultaneous interpretation.
This one. The hour, the day, the week, the year. Now we are in the 28th year, remembering. It's a moment people are speechless. Not lacking freedom to speak, as some people would want to refer to us as a country that we have no freedom to speak. That's rubbish. Just doesn't make sense. But the reason is also clear why people, just imagine the testimony we have just heard. And people being hunted down day and night for who they were, for who some of them are still today. Also imagine if those of us who were carrying arms if we had allowed ourselves to pursue those who were killing our people, indiscriminately, and also killed them. First of all, we would be right to do so. but we didn't. We spared them. Some of them are still living today in their homes, in their villages. Others are in the government, they're doing business. Some of those who are responsible, or who benefited. We didn't do that. And yet, people will have guts to say what they say about us or do against us, what they still do up to now. But let me tell you, we are a small country, but we are big on justice. And some of those are big and powerful countries, but they are very small on justice. They have no lessons to teach anyone, because they are part of this history that is so over 1 million of our people perish. They are the cause. And the Rwandans just executed, killed their fellow Rwandans. But the history of that originated where we all know, originated from that. So the very reasons that what we suffered, what we endured here, originated from there, is the reason they cannot give us peace. They want to cover up their responsibility. They want to cover up their silence. When the millions of people here in Rwanda needed them to speak out, to speak up, to come to their help. So in the end, the story becomes that of, these Rwandans, these Africans, are just killing each other. They are killing themselves. So there is no one who is right, there is no one who is wrong. We are all the same, according to them. We are not the same. That's why we did not kill another 1 million on top of the one we lost on the hands of these criminals, some of whom are even protected, even now, by the very countries that talk about justice, that give lessons about justice. Forget about justice. Let's talk about other things. They talk about democracy. They talk about all kinds of things. As far as I know, There are three systems that govern the world. One is the so-called democracy. The other is what they call autocracy. The third in between, that is silent, that is powerful, is that of hypocrisy. Three systems: democracy, autocracy, in between, the most powerful, very silent, effective, and that is hypocrisy. But for us, we've learned our lessons. We will carry the names anyone is going to give us. I have no problem with that. But the lesson we have learned, and the lesson of things we knew anyway from the beginning, some of us, is that it doesn't matter how far you go from here, thousands, tens of thousands of kilometers, you are not going to find the people that are more important or have more important lives than us, than we are. No, there are no more important people anywhere than we are. There are no such more important lives than ours. Much as our lives were destroyed, were wasted, as this testimony given by the young man there tells us. I will say all these things just even for the benefit of our young people, that, those who were born at the time are now 28. That growing must have taught them the lessons of our history, the history of this land. The land in which you find the very brave men and women the heroes, if you will. But I have a problem with the word hero and its definition, because there is no hero in our situation like this one. And because when you are talking of heroes, you are talking of a situation that was so bad that it had to have heroes for doing what they did, the right things, the good things, to save themselves and to save others from what was wrong that was going on. But then I asked myself, maybe the best thing is not to have heroes. It is not to have that situation that produces heroes. Like in our situation, how does one become a hero? And you know, you've lost 1 million people over. More people were killed than could have been saved or that needed to be saved. So that means being a hero, I wish we could not have it. I wish we did not have that situation that has to produce heroes. We would be better off. And another thing I have that is problematic with that word is that you can also manufacture heroes. You can decide to baptize somebody a hero, especially when you are powerful. You can create it, and if anybody raises an argument, they are made to shut down, shut up. That's what I meant when I said the powerful are powerful, they are big, but small on justice. They even talk about freedoms. And yet, as we know, they create false stories about a people, about Rwanda, about genocide. And when you argue with the facts and you want to present facts that actually they also know, there is that power to tell everyone not to give you space to express your opinion, to answer back, to argue. And yet they are the same people who will start accusing others of lack of freedom to express themselves. What I'm talking about is not an old story in terms of when it last happened. No, it happens even today. You find a renowned newspaper in some powerful place, falsifying stories about us, about Rwandans, about the genocide, about our history. And when somebody wants to say, look, that's not correct, This is what it is. These are facts. You know, you'll find it's like they have agreed among themselves, all channels through which you could have communicated or placed a reply, not to listen to you, because they want to have what they are playing, the only thing playing in everybody's ears. But make no mistake, in this land of ours, small as it is, it has no small people. Like we did in the past, guided by the truth, by what is right, and it did not use the means we had, the possibility we had to kill those who killed our people. You know, you can imagine people who even doubt our justice system. Then you have Rwanda in our constitution, in our set of laws, having abolished death sentence, death penalty. Some of these powerful countries still hang people or electrocute them. They do that. In fact, for us to have even thought about abolishing the death penalty at a time we had so many people to justifiably hang. And these people miss that point. They miss the point that we are actually a country of justice, a country of laws. We believe in the rule of law. Because if we didn't, why do we do all these things? There is no amount of pressure. Let no one tell you lies. This we did ourselves. It's not because anybody influenced us or put pressure on us, and because who would put pressure on us when they are the ones doing the same thing? In any case. And then we have even people we have forgiven who were associated with this. What happened that we heard from in the testimony. People who were part of that, continuing to be part of that, even now, and forget that we have actually forgiven them. So they are forgiven. They had been tried by the courts, found guilty, so many years. In the middle of serving their sentence, we forgive them. Next, these are the people supposed to bring to Rwanda democracy. It's a joke. And you are doing it in a wrong place, in a place that understands many things about us, our limitations, but our power to defend and protect this land and the people of this land. Those people who go around talking nonsense every day, they should take a moment and remember a situation like this we are talking about today. That in actual fact also remember that it has produced different people in this land. Our children, our grandchildren, we have a duty to make sure they understand this and they are there for this land, for the people of this land. Well, but we also know many things, including our limitations. We have no power to stop it or to prevent it. But to have the power to confront it. It happens every day. But this gives us, some of us, a good opportunity to remind people of all this. I cannot end without thanking leaders of our country, the citizens of our country, the young people who still find it in themselves to be normal human beings, given what has happened to them. Like, I'm really surprised that we have so many of these who still find in themselves the energy to live the way lives should be lived as normal human beings. But the most important thing is these very hard, bad lessons should never be wasted. In the last 28 years, every year that passes makes us stronger and better people. And for being who we want to be, we shall be the ones to decide, not anybody deciding for us what and how to be. For those who keep running their false stories and imagine people could not even, I think to be fair, the majority of the people in this world recognize what happened here and give it the name it should be called. Again, but there are others who say, no, but you see, it's only not Tutsis who died, it's also others. I mean, first of all, you're just saying the obvious. In that situation, what you're saying is obvious. But I think here we're talking about something else. When people, everybody knows here, or those who want to know, there are people who are called cockroaches here. Cockroaches, the name cockroach was reserved for a specific group of people. No. So, and when they were killing cockroaches. This is what they were saying. So they were saying it publicly. So to say that it was a genocide targeting Tutsis, how can it be wrong? How can it be questioned? How can it be argued about? Unless you have something else, another problem. And this is now what gives room to all of these other genocidaires to start talking about championing democracy. Their newfound breed of people who are democratic, who want to bring to Rwanda democracy. Rwanda that lacks democracy and lacks freedom of speech and lacks everything normal and human. Well, but what do you do? If somebody is insulting you, you take it. It's better not to insult back. You just absorb it and do whatever you want to do for yourself, for you. So the lessons learned for the young people, for our country in this land, is to say, let's just do for ourselves what we need to do, to be what we want to be, and the rest it's a struggle, it's a fight. We shall give it a good fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your very powerful words of hope. I now invite Nyundo School of Music for a performance.
Rwanda imanitaha
Perezida wa Repubulika,
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic and the First Lady, once again, we thank you for being here with us today. And the commemorative activities continue this whole week and for the next 100 days. And today's function has come to the end. Please stand up as the President of the Republic and the First Lady exit the room. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our commemoration ceremony. We thank you all for your support on this important occasion as we paid tribute to the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi and to the genocide survivors.
murakoze mwakwicara.
Thank you. Please be seated. As we still waiting for the vehicles to come and pick up everyone here, please remain seated. We have rain clouds up in the sky, and we know that rain is a blessing. So please keep remembering, united as we also renew. Thank you.
Rwanda, gihugu cy'uburanga butarutwa, rwema rw'imihigo rudaheranwa n'ingorane,
marira mu gahinda k'indengakamere twarahaciye ariko turiho.
Ijoro ryasaga n'iritazacya, twanze guheranwa n'agahinda, turibuka ariko twiyubaka.
Wavukijwe Rwanda ntibazagaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye, turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere. Do we need over 1 million eyes to see that genocide is the shame to the human race? We rose from the pain, from the tear, from the ashes. How much longer do we have to say never again?
Ijoro ribaruwa riraye bana b'u Rwanda, dufatiye mbere turwanye ikibi tutazasubira mu mwijima.
Wavukijwe Rwanda ntibazagaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye, turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere. 28 saisons passées à réapprendre à aimer, d'un champ de fer que nos enfants aient raison d'espérer. Intambwe utera niryo shema tugukesha, tubibona nk'intero idusaba inyikirizo wa mushumba dutezeho.
Muri dufite mu biganza byacu Rwanda, tuzarurinde cyarungabanya cyose umwijima ntuzagaruka ukundi
abo wavukijwe Rwanda ntibazagaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere
dore abo bana bahoze bigunze
hamwe n'abapfakazi bafite icyizere baratwaza ubudacogora biyubaka abo wavukijwe Rwanda ntibazagaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere abo wavukijwe Rwanda ntibazagaruka ariko batuye imitima tugutuye turabunamira twiyubaka kandi tujya imbere
Nyundo School of Music barakoze. Twasabaga protocol ikadufasha.
We're requesting protocol to help us and lead the way to the different buses that brought us here, and those with the private vehicles can also proceed to the parking lot. Thank you.